Inside the dark world of Pablo Picasso, genius or monster, the man who shaped art and destroyed lives. He was the greatest artist of the 20th century, but also its greatest manipulator. Women worshipped him, then they shattered. Friends admired him, then they vanished. His art broke every rule, but was it genius or madness? He didn't just create art, he created his own universe. To love Picasso meant to surrender to him completely. His genius was undeniable, but so was his darkness. Was Picasso a visionary, or a man who left only broken souls in his wake? Born in 1881, Picasso's first word wasn't mama or papa but piz, short for lápiz, the Spanish word for pencil. His father was an art professor, and young Pablo was already surpassing him at age 7. But his childhood was marked by death. His beloved sister Conchita died of diphtheria. Picasso was just 14. In desperation, he prayed to God, vowing to never paint again if she survived. But she didn't, and Picasso never forgave God. From that moment, he would live by one rule: no one, not God, not society, not love, would ever control him again. Women, love, and destruction. To Picasso, women were not just lovers. They were his muses, his prisoners, his victims. Each woman marked a new chapter in his art and in his cruelty. And the most tragic? They bore his children and left them with his legacy. Fernande Olivier, a young model in Paris, Picasso's first great love, his obsession. At first she was his goddess, then his possession. He wouldn't let her leave their apartment alone, fearing other men's eyes on her. She later described feeling like an animal in a cage, and when Picasso grew tired of her, he replaced her. 1917. Picasso meets Olga Khokhlova, a Russian ballerina of the ballets Russes. She is discipline, high society, everything Picasso isn't. But he is captivated. He paints her with elegance, almost royalty. It marks his classical period, structured, refined, almost restrained. Yet Picasso was never meant for marriage. While Olga wanted stability, Picasso wanted passion. And soon, he found it in Marie-Thérèse Walter, a 17-year-old girl. When Olga discovered the affair, she left. But Picasso refused to divorce her, because Spanish law would force him to give her half his wealth. She lived the rest of her life bitter and alone, dying in 1955, still legally his wife. Their son, Pablo Picasso. Lost and directionless, he became Picasso's chauffeur, drowned in alcohol and died at just 54. Marie-Thérèse Walter, the teenage mistress who died for him. 1927. Picasso sees a 17-year-old girl on the street. He is 45. He tells her, "I am Picasso. You and I are going to do great things together." Marie-Thérèse, innocent, worships him. He molds her into his perfect muse, the subject of his most sensual paintings, but in reality, she's just another secret. She gives birth to their daughter Maya in 1935, but Picasso was already looking for his next muse, Dora Maar. Years pass, Picasso moves on, and when he dies in 1973, Marie-Thérèse cannot live in a world without him. She hangs herself. Maya Picasso. She was one of the few children Picasso truly cherished, especially in her early years. He painted her often, capturing her childhood in colors. Yet in his later life, even she had to fight for her place in his legacy. The woman who inspired Guernica and lost her mind. Dora Maar. She was different. A photographer, an artist, an intellectual. Finally, a woman who could challenge Picasso's mind. But Picasso didn't want an equal. He wanted a woman to break. Dora was the one who captured his creative rage while painting Guernica, documenting every stage of its creation. But in Picasso's world, pain and love were inseparable. He would drive her to the edge, then pull her back, push, pull, until she shattered. When he left her, Dora fell into darkness. She was institutionalized, underwent electroshock therapy, and spent her final years in seclusion, painting and whispering his name. The only woman who ever left Picasso was Françoise Gillot. She was not like the others. She was young, strong, and an artist herself. And in 1943 she entered Picasso's world, knowing exactly who he was. Françoise gave him 2 children, Claude and Paloma Picasso, but she saw what no other woman had dared to see, that Picasso's love was a cage. In 1953, she did the impossible. She left him. Picasso was enraged. How dare she abandon him? He swore revenge, blocked their children from his will, and spent the rest of his life ensuring her name would be erased from the art world. But Françoise survived, and she told her story. Claude and Paloma Picasso. Paloma thrived, becoming a world-renowned designer. Claude, however, fought for years to claim his place in Picasso's legacy. In Picasso's last years, he found his final muse, Jacqueline Roque, devoted, obedient, utterly in love with him. She became his protector, his gatekeeper, keeping all his past lovers away from his legacy. He painted over 400 portraits of her, more than any other woman in his life. But love in Picasso's world was always possessive. When Picasso died in 1973, Jacqueline was lost. She fell into deep depression. And in 1986, she shot herself. The legacy of Picasso's women and children: 6 great loves, 4 children, and almost all of them destroyed by the weight of his name. Picasso didn't just paint women, he consumed them. And when he was done, he moved on, leaving behind only shattered souls. But Picasso's chaos wasn't just in his relationships. It was in every brushstroke, every line, every distortion. The blue period: grief, loss, and depression. A friend's suicide shattered Picasso. He drowned in loneliness, painting beggars, the blind, the broken. The world was blue, and so was his soul. The rose period: love, lust, and Fernanda. With a new lover came new light. The world turned pink, filled with harlequins, circus performers, and romance. But passion never lasted long in Picasso's world. Cubism: breaking reality to gain control. Here is where the genius meets the madness. With Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, Picasso shattered perspective itself. Faces twisted, bodies fragmented, because in Picasso's world nothing was sacred, not even form. Why? Because he wanted control. The real world was unpredictable, but art was his. Guernica, 1937. The painting that screamed war. But Picasso didn't just paint war, he made the world feel it. Bombs, flames, horses shrieking, a mother holding her dead child. Guernica was Picasso's masterpiece of horror. But did he really care for the victims? Or was this just another masterpiece to feed his ego? But Picasso's darkness didn't end with love or art. It touched everything. He had an obsession with bulls. He loved them, but not as you'd think. For him, the bull symbolized masculine power, domination, aggression. He was obsessed with bullfighting, watching the brutal spectacle, the death, the submission of the beast. Picasso rejected God. He lost his faith as a child. He never got it back. His portraits of Christ, distorted, broken, mocked. He once said, "To draw a picture of Jesus, you must be an atheist." Picasso hated war, but he admired strength. Some say he had a fascination with brutal leaders, including Franco. He refused to return to Spain under Franco's rule, yet some claim he never fully condemned the dictator. Was Pablo Picasso a rebel, a god, a monster, or all of them at once? He wasn't a hero, but he wasn't just a monster either. Picasso made art wild and revolutionary. Without him, there would be no abstract art, no expressionism, no surrealism. Painters like Salvador Dalí, Jackson Pollock, or Jean-Michel Basquiat would have painted differently without him. Picasso didn't just paint, he forced people to see the world differently. A visionary, a tyrant, a genius, a monster. What do you think? Tell us in the comments.